sometimes a small crew would get in an airplane and fly to Maine to do 2 shots of Tom running up to a lighthouse, turn around and running back, and you do 2 of those a weekend. You go to Maine, then you go to Wyoming and do Tom's brother running down a road, because Tom's brother looks just like him with the beard and everything looks just like him. He doubled a lot of that running stuff was done by a car commercial group, Friends of Don's, who just did car commercials, and they knew every beautiful road in America, right? They knew the one with the stone bridge and the wonderful vistas of the reflection of the lake. They just knew all of these. And so they just got extra money. That's actually a great story. But they came up with more money to hire this group. It was like $1.5 million to fly all over the country with Tom's brother and just do running stuff. Just have guy running down road, guy running away from camera, guy running past camera, guy running across the bridge. And they did that for a couple of weeks. Wow. And the great story behind that is Sherry Lansing, I think, took over Paramount after the show was greenlit. And as typical in Hollywood, when the new administration comes in, they want to distance themselves from everything the previous administration had started. So they didn't really get Forrest Gump. They didn't really like it. It wasn't their movie. It was from the old administration. So they kind of just had a hard on for Forrest Gump, and they didn't get it. They were pissed off, and they wanted to kind of fire somebody. And the line producer was a wonderful guy named Charles Neuwirth, fantastic guy. And they just wanted to get rid of Charles. They wanted to, kind of exert their power over Bob Z. And they sent a couple of henchmen, a woman, I can't remember her name, but another suit from Paramount named Larry Albuquerque. And Larry came, and I had history with Larry on another movie. But Larry came in, and this woman, I'll have to figure out what her name is one of these days when I tell the story. But they came in with the intent of making a change, right? And there was one really good restaurant in Beaufort that everybody ended up in every Saturday night. It was a kind of a Cajun, kind of a high-end Cajun place. And, little small restaurant, 15 tables, and it had a big picture window in the front of it. And I was in there eating with somebody one night, and Larry and this woman were also eating at that restaurant. And you could see out the window, a car screeched up, and Bob Zemeckis got out. And he goes up and he puts his thing, and he's looking in the window of the restaurant, and he sees the producer, he sees Larry and this woman, and he comes in and he goes, "Get out of here, come here, get out of here," right? And he drags him outside, and he's yelling at him in front of all of us. I mean, there was a big picture window, and we're watching this, he's cussing at him. "You get out of town. I don't want to," he's going on, and he's screaming at him. And like half the crew's in there just watching this going, "Oh my God, we get a floor show." And we came back to work the next Monday, and Larry wasn't around, and neither was this other person. They went and hid in Florida, apparently. They just left. They couldn't go back to Paramount, and they couldn't fire Charlie Neuwirth. And, we ended up finishing the movie, obviously, and it turned out to make $1 trillion or something absurd like that. I exaggerate, but I think it did make $1 billion. I mean, it was like ridiculous money. And, but they wanted to kill it. So anyway, I was telling you the story about the car company. Mm. The car company that they wanted to hire, that Bob and Don Burgess wanted to hire to go do all this running stuff, they needed a kind of a $2 million budget, and Paramount wouldn't give it to them. They say, "No, we're not going to, you got your money. This is it." And they just said, "But we need this. It's perfect for the movie. It'll. They said no. And so the producers, Steve Starkey and Bob and Tom Hanks, gave back money, from their salary back to the show for the purpose of doing this running thing. But as a result, they said, "Well, we want points in the film." And Paramount said, "Yeah, sure," because they didn't believe in the movie. So that $500,000 investment or whatever it was each of them gave, ended up paying dividends.
I can
I don't know
imagine.
the amount, but a lot. I mean, it was like a really good investment. One of those, and that's one of those kind of like crazy Hollywood stories. Like, how could anybody not see this movie to be what it could be?
Yeah.
I mean, all the crew did. We saw it. You saw it. I mean, and if I recall, I don't think there were any colored pages to the movie. The script we got at the beginning of the show is the script we shot. It wasn't like you have some shows where you're getting 15 pages a day. They're rewriting things, and it's like a rainbow. Your script is all these colored pages. It was a white script from beginning to end. It just hit every note perfectly, and the right director, the right guy. Music was a huge part of it, and Bob loved music. It was just, it was one of those great, perfect little film experiences, but still really hard to do, just physically hard. The schedule was hard. The location was 100 degrees and 90% humidity. You're just wet and dripping. I mean, to where your shoes are wet. When you're sweating that much and your socks
Oh,
and your shoes are wet, you just like, ooh, but it was tough. I got to do some good stuff though. I pulled a lot of good ones out of my hat. I mean, all that running stuff we did, on the football field and the Vietnam stuff and the boy running. I took a quad runner. We actually got a six-wheel quad runner. I had them buy it for me, and I built track wheels for it. It ran on track, and so we'd lay down. I think we had 300 feet of track. We laid down this long track, and then I would drive along that, and it would tow a trailer, a little caboose that also ran on track, and we put cameras on it. So like all the Vietnam stuff with Tom running, and Tom runs, man. He is a hard runner, and I'd just be driving right next to him, and then I had one of the guys down at the end of the track who would just yell at me, "Stop!" And I'd hit the brakes and come to screech to an end and not go off the end of the track. But that was really fun. That was that. I mean, it was a good show for invention. I had a lot of prep time, which is also rare. I think I had a month of prep, because we got to make all the stuff, which was fun.